Hello and welcome to another Garblag Games video. This time we'll be taking you through Star Wars Rebellion, unboxing and playthrough of a turn. You can see that this is quite a thick box, so there's quite a bit to show you. We've got our quick rules, which is what we'll go through in the turn sequence later. You've got your rules reference, which has got more detailed rules when you get into advanced play. You've got your two faction sheets, one for the Empire and one for the Rebels. You can watch me struggle to get the contents out of the box here. The quality of this product is excellent, as with most Fantasy Flight games. And yes, here you go, you can see the faction sheets. These give you your little construction rules, your combat rules for your different types of ships and ground troops. You've got a nice sheet of press out tokens and heroes, and you've got your board. I found here, as I opened it up, that it actually comes in two parts. So if you do what I did, oh, don't worry, that's not broken. That's actually how it comes. And you can see the great artwork that they've got here for the different systems on the board. It's absolutely excellent, and you can see the names clearly, and there's little icons and places to put loyalty markers, which is really cool. And there you can see the turn sequence and a few places for cards, which we'll go through later. So you've got your plastic stands here for your leader pawns, and you've got this great bag of 153 plastic miniatures, 89 Imperial and 64 Rebel. You can see Star Destroyers, Death Stars, there's more than one, your Rebels, your Air Speeders, your Mon Calamari cruisers. The stuff in there is absolutely excellent. It's a wealth of miniatures. Next up, we've got the dice. So you've got custom dice, 5 black, 5 red. They have 3 different faces, which we'll talk about later. And you've got a whole load of cards. Now you've got different sized cards. We've got small cards and large cards. These small cards break down into your tactics cards for space and ground. That's the ground one there with the AT-AT on the back. There are, let's have a look, yeah, just shuffling through the cards just so we can see them all laid out. There's the space tactic cards. These are your probe cards. Now this is a really interesting mechanic in the game. The Imperial player will get to draw cards from this deck every turn, and once he draws a system, he knows that the Rebel base is not in it. And the Rebel player picks one to begin with where they're going to be locating the Rebel base. So those there were the action cards, Imperial and Rebel ones, with the different colouring backs. Right, so we've got objective cards and mission cards here. So we've got the light Rebel ones, and we'll talk a bit more about missions later on, but you can see some lovely artwork on these cards. Mission cards are how you really perform actions throughout the game. Although you have action cards, in the basic game they don't really come into play much. The mission cards are really what your leaders are trying to do during the game, and we will talk about that a bit later. You can see the objective cards here. Now these are for the Rebels, and you can see a little number in the top left hand corner. The Rebels start to gain reputation as they complete objectives with a 1, a 2 or a 3. And these form a little pile on the board that each turn the Rebel player takes one of. So here we've got destroyed system markers, we've got leader pawns, we've got the sabotage markers, which are really good when the Rebels block a system. You've got loyalty markers for Rebel, Imperial and subjugated, and then you've got these special attachment rings that go around the plastic base of the leaders and indicate separate conditions. So that's a bit of a run through of the contents. The first thing to do in setup is choose your faction. I was playing Rebels and Aaron was playing Imperials. Then you need to gather your components, and here you can see us popping out all the counters. This really is the first time we've played this game or even opened the box. Then you start to place your leaders. Everyone begins with 4 particular leaders, and these go on your beginning sheet. And then you prepare objective decks, and as you can see we're starting to place the beginning figures and units on different systems. And with the starter game, the Empire starts off with a lot more on the board, which I think is a general thing. And here you can see the red areas of Imperial systems, the green of the Rebel, the green circle indicates where I put my Rebel base. So now we're starting to put our leaders onto our faction cards. You have admirals who are good at space combat and generals that are good at ground combat. See, we're getting through our objective decks, our action decks, and preparing the tactics cards. This really is a kind of lot of shuffling, a lot of getting things near the board ready for you to start playing. So yes, so we're kind of nearly done, and the last thing to do is just to pick the Rebel base. There you can see the faction card. This shows you the different units you can build, their particular capabilities. And there we're just going through that. So I'm just shuffling through the cards, the probe droid cards, to find which system I want to use. And I picked Ryloth. And we draw our starting hands of 4 starter missions and 2 extra missions. Now we're pretty much ready to go, so we'll be moving on to the first phase, which is the assignment phase, where you assign your leaders there to your missions based on their skills. The assignment phase seems fairly straightforward, where you assign your leaders to do different missions, or you keep them in reserve to move ships in the command phase or respond to other people's missions. However, it's one of those phases where you've really got to think about what you're doing. You're going to set up leaders with particular actions that they can take in a turn. As you can see here, I'm placing my leaders on top of face down mission cards. But you've got to think about what your opponent's trying to do, what you want to achieve, and in what order you're then going to play those in your turn. And these things can allow you to conquer systems, persuade them to join you, conduct infiltration missions, or perform daring raids. So in the command phase, you take it in turns to do one of two things. You can either activate a system by placing a leader there, or reveal a mission that you have a leader assigned to. Now if you want to activate a system, simply place your leader onto a star system, and you can move ships from the adjoining systems into that one. If that system is one with your opponent in, you then have a combat, and combat goes through ship combat and then ground combat, and then if there's no victor, you can retreat, or you go through more rounds of combat. And during those combats you use the ship and ground tactic cards in order to bolster your skills and use your dice differently depending on the leader that you're using. So each leader can use a different number of cards. So Wedge Antilles gets more ship cards than he does ground cards, for example. Now the other thing you can do is reveal a mission. Now a mission will have a particular skill that is required to complete it, and your opponent may oppose with any leaders they have in reserve, as long as they have the required skill. Now then what you do is you roll a number of dice each if it's opposed, based on the number of skill icons your leader has. Whoever gets the most successes on the dice wins. Now the lightsaber symbols on the dice count for 2 successes, so you really want to get those crossed lightsabers on your dice. If it's uncontested and your opponent does not move a leader in to contest you, then you automatically succeed. If a mission card says resolve, that happens automatically and cannot be opposed. Now from what I saw, the Empire has a few resolve cards that are based on their project deck, which is a different kind of mission card for the Empire. One thing to say really about these mission cards is this is where the whole story of Star Wars comes in, and the real strong theme that runs through this. You create these little moments where Mon Mothma convinces a system to join the Alliance, or Emperor Palpatine forces a system to quell before the Empire, Darth Vader may go on hunting looking for particular heroes, or Chewbacca might lead a daring raid behind enemy lines to take out valuable resources. All of this works together to create such a great feel to the game. It's excellent. The final phase of the turn is the refresh phase. Now here you retrieve your leaders as they return from their missions. You draw additional missions, 2 cards per turn. Then the Empire launches probe droids and draws 2 cards, which each show a system where the rebel base is not located. Through this mechanic, the Imperial player starts to narrow down the list of planets that the rebels might be hiding on, and can focus the search with his ships in the following turn. The rebel player then draws a new objective. These objectives earn points to increase the rebels' reputation, which is the win condition for the rebels. If their reputation marker moves down the left-hand tracker and hits the turn marker, they win. You then advance the turn marker, and each turn will allow you a different combination of recruiting and building. So recruiting allows you to draw more leader cards and pick one, and building turns allow you to build based on systems that are loyal to you and the resource icons on those spaces. You then deploy units that are in step 1 of the build queue from your previous turns. You can only put 2 units in each system, and all your other steps on the build queue then move along to show the production line increasing. So that's it. You keep going until either the Imperials use the Death Star to find the rebel base, or the rebels have enough reputation to throw off the shackles of the Empire.